What's happening, lads and lassies? It's Ocean from the South Stand, back again with another video, and I have the pleasure of joining us after Sunderland get a 3-0 win at home. And do you know what? I am so glad to be proven wrong on this day. I actually was a little bit nervous coming into this one. For anyone that watched the match preview, you'll know that. I just basically have this feeling when we play Burnley that it's like when we play Coventry and we just never really get something out of it. Burnley coming off the back of a few draws against good teams. It kind of felt like to me it was absolutely screaming of a 1-1. So glad I got that wrong though. But today was an enjoyable Sunderland performance. Again, not a perfect Sunderland performance, but truly didn't look like we got out of second gear. It was a well balanced performance, a mature one from the older players, stepping up in place of Granit Xhaka whilst he's still out. Unfortunately, it looks like he's still going to be out until after the Oxford game, probably. I think that'll be probably the earliest we start talking about him coming back. But yeah, look, we'll jump right into this one. But aren't we glad Habib Diarra is back in action, baby? We'll jump right into things, but aren't we glad that Habib Diarra is back in action? Wow, I'm so glad to have him back. We'll get on to how he played, how it changed the style of play for Sunderland, who was looking best, who's maybe still needing some work. We'll get into all that. But before we start, let's talk about some team news, team lineups, who started on a day, and more importantly, we've just passed transfer deadline day. And for Sunderland fans, we'll all know that we've ended up signing Nielsen Angular from Anderlecht. Now, I am not going to sit here and pretend I know anything about the lad, but he has been touted as Belgian Pro League's best winger at the minute. Seems like he's around 6 foot, pretty tall lad, direct, fast, pacey. Really hoping to me that it's going to be a step up from Simon Adingra. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings because I see plenty of people online that actually did really enjoy Simon Adingra, or at least like the lad. For me, if you've watched my videos before, you'll know that I wasn't always massive on him, to be honest. He's not. I don't know. I don't think it was exactly what we needed and what we thought we were getting. I think we thought the likes of Talby were in Mundo coming up to the Premier League were going to be our backups and we're going to be the guys that, you know, we're training in the shadows of someone like Simon Adingra, who was hopefully going to show him the way, become himself a real established Premier League starter. But it just never really turned out that way. And you can see that Regis never favoured him. I think more likely than not because of his defensive work. But moving on to Nielsen Angulo, it seems like what I've seen online, and in fact, I think it might have been on Connor Bromley's channel. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure it was Connor Bromley's channel that ended up showing an overlay of the style of play of Simon Adingra compared to Nielsen Angulo. And it seems like it's the same type of player, but just a bit better and a bit bigger and also a bit more defensively sound. So I look forward to seeing it. I hope it's someone that we get to see within the next few weeks because Sunderland's wingers are still a trouble spot. So let's just get into how the team lineup started off with today and what the team looked like, because I wasn't 100% really sure what to even go with in terms of a starting lineup, who I thought was going to actually be in there, what formation we'd be going with. And this ended up being what we went for. Now, at first, when I seen this, I got a little bit of a fright because I could not wrap my head around why it was going 5-4-1 until you seen it in play, and it wasn't really a 5-4-1, to be honest with you. Trey Hume spent the majority of his time in midfield, as we know him to. Norton Mukele like painted the touchline essentially, where how often he was up and down there. Ronaldo Mandava, amazing going forward, and I really enjoyed it. I think he showed a lot of maturity and skill going forward, but he honestly did not have much to do defensively at all tonight. So I think he enjoyed his night of somewhat rest. The same for Alderete, the same for Ballard. Not a hell of a lot they had to do tonight. And then you look at Robin Roofs, who quite literally did not have to make one singular save. Burnley never registered a single shot on target, which is, I'm not going to say nothing. Obviously, we've watched Sunderland do this in times in the past, but Burnley, before we even get into how Sunderland performs, Burnley were really, truly poor tonight. And for a team that we've got so much stick off of, the same as Leeds, a team that we've got so much stick off of over the last few months, that was honestly, I'd honestly say Wolves were probably better when they came to the stadium, but yep. And then we sat in front of the five at the back with Habib Diarra playing the right midfield role, followed by Noah Siddiqui and Enzo Lefebvre in the central midfield position where I think we expected him to be, and then Chemstein Talbot getting his start. Now, in terms of wingers, of course, Brian Brobby, the tank, is up front. Brian Brobby, by the way, I'm actually looking right now in front of me at SofaScore and just seeing the ratings. It's amazing to me when Brian Brobby gets a 6 because we all love him so much and he's just an absolute unit. Honestly, I do actually think Eddie Hall has pictures of Brian Brobby on his bedroom wall, but see him get a 6, and you know what? It's funny because yes, it is some passes that go askew and there's some passes that go outside, but he creates so much from Sunderland holding up that ball. He's absolutely fantastic. And we've seen it again today, the touches, the layoffs, playing in Diarra to then go through and get a goal. We'll get into that in a little bit. But starting off with that team lineup and team formation, I know myself as well as a few others were probably ready to see the end of Trey Hume in that right wing role, but seeing him in this slightly more midfield role, I guess for me was better. I don't think he really did too much wrong. It's just not something that I think is going to fly against teams that are any better than Burnley. For example, when we go to Arsenal next week, now I imagine that he's probably going to play next week because of um, Regis Lebrie's kind of safety first defensive look. And I think Trey done a good job. It's just one of those ones where you just wish after the money spent, after how long we've been in the Premier League now, like the whole half season we've been in the games we've played, that we would have our starting wingers, or we would have wingers there to be starting in those roles. I'm not going to complain. I think it was a fantastic performance overall tonight. I think Trey did a good job. I think as well, Trey being in that right back role and fold into the midfield like that did allow the likes of Enzo Lefebvre to have a more creative role to link everyone together. And we've seen it as well with Habib Diarra as well. Him playing tonight honestly offered Sunderland so much balance throughout the middle. I think he had a great time. Him and Mukele and then Brian Brobby together, their link up play, I really enjoyed down that right hand side. I thought it was excellent. I think as well, playing with Trey Hume in that defensive role really allows Mukele to flourish as Sunderland's widest, furthest forward player in a lot of senses, rather than using our wingers to get the ball to our wingers and then ask them to bring it inside. We're using the likes of Habib Diarra to come in a little bit, Trey Hume to cover Mukele, whilst Mukele bombs in as Sunderland's wide player, and he does such a good job crossing the ball in. Then we move on. And something I really want to show you guys is I personally find it the most obvious example of how Sunderland look different tonight compared to when they played West Ham. And if you see it here, I'm going to pop up on screen a comparison of where Sunderland attacked the most through either the right wing, left wing, or centrally. And you'll see that in that game against West Ham, it was pretty much right wing or nothing. There was not much happening other than down the right hand side. And then you look at the game tonight and how even it is across the board. Honestly, I think Habib Diarra coming into fold was a massive, massive part of that. I think as well, the thing we've been screaming on for Brian Brobby, because it's so unfair how isolated he gets, when we were asking the wingers to bring the ball in, it's not as if our central players were then sitting close to Brian Brobby offering help. It was pretty much Brian Brobby in isolation getting a ball swung into him by our wingers. The way we played tonight, though, instead, Brian Brobby had Enzo Lefebvre, he had Chemstein Talby at times, he had Habib Diarra quite a lot of the time close to him. He was able to work and link with these other players, and it worked so much better than when we see it, than when it's just the wingers carrying the ball out wide, try to bring it in or cross it in. Tonight was way, way better playing through the central areas. I'll be honest, I really did not expect Sunderland to look so good without Granit Xhaka. I think tonight, as I said, having Habib Diarra and having Enzo Lefebvre playing in those central roles, I think it just made Sunderland look so much more threatening in that final third. We looked a lot better. And I think partially because we didn't have two players sitting at the foot of the midfield, because obviously we've normally got Noah Siddiqui and Granit Xhaka playing as a double pivot, which works well and is obviously more defensively minded. However, having Trey Hume, as we know, in that right full back role allowed him to fold in a little bit alongside the likes of Noah Siddiqui, sometimes pushing forward as well. We even nearly got a goal again tonight. But then, as I said, that then unlocked Habib Diarra and unlocked Enzo Lefebvre to go on and push on. And I've just got to say it again, Enzo Lefebvre, he's just, he's honestly one of my favourite players that we've had at Sunderland in a long, long, long time. I just love his tenacity, his energy. For such a small player, I think we make so many excuses for small players in the Premier League because of how physical it is. Then you get a player like Enzo Lefebvre that probably made more tackles than majority of people on that field. Let's just have a look at it right now. Yeah, Enzo Lefebvre, 11 defensive contributions with 5 tackles, 1, 2 interceptions, 3 clearances, a block shot, and 9 ball recoveries. I mean, from like a diminutive player like that, it's not just defensively. Like he brings it to Sunderland defensively as well. When you're missing the likes of Granit Xhaka, that's what you expect. That's what you expect from your senior players. And I thought all of our senior players in Mukele, in Alderete, Ballard, in Mukiele and Alderete and Enzo Lefebvre, I thought they all stepped up to the plate really well tonight. Renildo Mandava, as I said, just really looked like a mature, confident performance, one that you really can't complain about in this position. And I look into this next while and say, cool, now that we've gotten rid of some of the kind of dead weight around the squad, we've shaken off some of that. It's a much more focused group. What can Sunderland actually to look what can Sunderland actually look to go and achieve in the second half of the season? Because I am excited by the prospects of it, even if deadline day and just the transfer window in general was probably a little bit lacklustre. Another positive from tonight, obviously, being the fact that Sunderland scored 2 goals in the first half within the first 30 minutes. That it just took such a weight off our shoulders for the rest of the game. We've been such a good second half team and it's helped us recover so many points. But there's been so many times when we've conceded a goal that was just unnecessary, falling behind to a team that inevitably we have ended up taking points off anyway. But we've left points on the table because of that as well. And tonight we just left no holes barred, got out, got the 2 goals in within 30 minutes. Habib Diarra rushing the box offers Sunderland so much, offers another option for defenders to have to think about because it's no longer just Brian Brobby who already occupies at least 2 of them. Now they're thinking about on Russian midfielders as well. And yeah, you're looking at Sunderland scoring 2 goals in the first half and then really just getting to cruise out the rest of the game. Honestly, when I say Burnley offered nothing, they truly offered nothing. Like it was truly surprising how bad they were, to be honest. Like for a team that this time last season looked a lot better than us, it's crazy the difference a year makes. But look, that's all for today. I am absolutely buzzing with that one. I thought it was a really solid performance across the board. I think many players just had a bit of a cushy night. Like they got the job done the job well. Things like passing needs to improve, but the bigger picture things like the style of play, like being able to control the game in the final third, that was all improved on tonight, and I will never ever complain about that. So another good one, another 3 points in the bag. Home our unbeaten home record still intact in February, which is absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, as per usual, nothing but buzz around here. What did you guys think of it? Let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Catch it.